Hi, it's David Oestreicher here in Karmiel on the 18th of the month of May. It's warm, 33 degrees, sunny, beautiful. That's the weather report. What else is it? It's Erev Parsha Bamidbar, followed directly by SHAVUOT. What is Shavuot? What is this time of year about? Shavuot is closely connected to the book of Ruth and the leadership of David HaMelech, King David. We read the book of Ruth, who was the great-great-grandmother of David. She was a convert. It's a beautiful story, and it's also set in this time of year during the harvest season, the barley harvest specifically, and now we're in the wheat harvest. And so we've come to think of Shavuot as dealing with elements of leadership, of kingship. David, after all, really is the prototype of the great leader, the great king. What are his qualities? We'll come back to that later. What else about this time? This time also is the time of the receiving, the giving and the receiving of the Torah itself. On Mount Sinai, in the 6th of Sivan, which falls this year on Sunday, the month of Sivan, 49 days after after Pesach. What is the significance of Sinai and its connection to David and its connection to the wheat harvest? And its connection to you and I today. Okay, I'm going to bring a little bit of news into this. The disgraced former head of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the FBI, James Comey, recently wrote a book. What was the name of the book? The name of the book was A Higher Loyalty: Truth, Lies, and Leadership. James Comey is Achitophel. There's a name we haven't heard much of. Achitophel was the leader, not the leader, he was the leading advisor to King David himself. He was, some say, asking Achitophel a question was like directing it to God himself. Achitophel was so brilliant and so wise. And yet, Achitophel, when it came to a higher loyalty, it was to Achitophel himself, not to David, not to God. Achitophel joined the rebellion as the principal counselor to Absalom, David's elder son and the young man who tried to take his father's kingdom away. And Achitophel joined him in the rebellion. On his deathbed, Achitophel had 3 pieces of advice for his... He was actually killing himself. He realized that his life was over, the rebellion had failed, and soon he would pay the ultimate price, and rather than that, he decided to take his own life. So he went home to his village outside of Jerusalem and put his life in order. And he advised those who would follow after him of 3 things. 1, avoid arguments and machlochet. 2, do not try to be disloyal to David the king and to kingship. It will end in failure. 3, if the weather is clear on Shavuot, and by the way, the prediction is for clear, plant wheat. It's a peculiar one, the last one. We'll come back to that too. There's a great deal written at this time and talked about at this time about the nature of God or lack of God in this world. Is this world a series of coincidences that exist, and that is where we come to it? Or was there some intelligence that created the world in which we live? This is a hot topic at the time of the giving of the Torah in this portion of the year. Was the Torah really written by some very smart people? Was the Torah some compilation of human intelligence, mixed human intelligence? Or was it really dictated by God to Moshe Rabbeinu? Atheists, who many are very brilliant people, obviously hold the former opinion. David became the ultimate icon of what a great king should be. And Jews and Christians, many people refer to David as the example of great kingship. What is the single quality of David? Is he perfect? No, far from it. And after the relationship with Bathsheba and the death of her first husband Uriah, David never ceased regretting mistakes that he had made, and before. It would seem that David's quality of kingship is actually humility, is actually loyalty to a higher power. That's a noble thing. But what is the higher power is really the question. I think it was Bob Dylan who said we all have to serve somebody. If you choose to serve a absolute divinity, you are agreeing to put your own personal subjectivity aside and accept the essence of good and evil, of sin and mitzvah, as defined by that divinity and understood by interpreters of it. If you choose to deny that divinity and that divinity's ability to present moral absolutes, then you are in very dangerous territory. Because in fact you're not denying the divinity, you have become the divinity, as did Achitophel, as did James Comey. And so we are wary of this. Should we investigate that which we are given, the moral yeses and nos? Of course we should. But we should always know the source of it and our position. And David's quality is 1, humility, and 2, repentance. By the way, Saul, who came before him, was a tremendous tzaddik, but he did sin. He made a very big mistake. But when he did, rather than accept the nature of it, he either blamed others or said it was inevitable, that he was doing the right thing. Never accepted the responsibility for it. This was actually the difference. David perceived himself as, he said, I'm not even a man. People will mock me. I'm a worm. Was it false? No, it wasn't false. He held it. This was his quality, and this is actually the key to leadership, is to have enough humility to understand that you are not divine, even though those around you might treat you as such. Shavuos in the Torah is celebrated as the bringing of the wheat harvest. You know, we eat matzah on Pesach, but on Shavuos we eat big, fluffy challah. Something has happened that we're able to have developed ourselves to the point where we can eat the challah, and it's not a yetzer hara. Achitophel tells us on his deathbed 2 things which make sense. Don't get into arguments, and do not try to replace King David, the monarch. And what is he telling us in the third one? If the weather is clear on Shavuot, plant wheat. What is it about? We know in the Mishnah that it says, where there is no flour, no wheat, there is no Torah, and where there is no Torah, there is no wheat, there is no chemical flour. The two are related. One is spiritual, one is physical, but wheat itself is the staff of life, as is Torah the staff of spiritual life. Achitophel is telling us, when you plant wheat on Shavuos, make sure that there is clarity to it. Make sure that you're holding to the laws and the nature and the quality of Torah as given to Moshe at Sinai. If you do it in a rainfall, if you do it without clarity, you will find yourself developing your own system and claiming it is a higher loyalty. And then you could be headed for a very, very difficult end. So as we sit here on the eve of Shavuot, I want to wish everybody a clear Shavuot, and that you plant your wheat, your Torah, on a clear day so that it grows straight and powerful. Remember that the qualities of the land of Israel are qualities of Torah. And when we plant the wheat harvest, and when we harvest it, and when we bring the shtei lechem, the two challahs, they are all about both physicality and our connection to God and the land that He has given us. Let us take it preciously, let us enjoy it, and let us be close to it. Wishing you a Hag Sameach, Zman Toratenu, good Shabbos, as we start the new book of Torah Bamidbar. Shabbat Shalom, Hag Sameach. David Ostreicher from Karmiel.